In a case that redefined the boundaries of human depravity and the dark corners of the internet, Armin Meiwes, the German computer technician, gained infamy as the Rotenburg cannibal. His chilling story is unique in that it involved a willing victim, a man who, through an online forum, sought someone to kill and eat him. In March 2001, Meiwes met Bernd Jürgen Brandes, who had responded to his online advertisement seeking someone to be slaughtered and consumed. What followed was a meticulously documented act of cannibalism, filmed by Meiwes himself. Brandes willingly participated in his own dismemberment, even attempting to eat some of his own flesh before succumbing to blood loss. Meiwes then proceeded to consume various parts of Brandes' body over an extended period. The case sparked intense legal and ethical debate, as the concept of consensual cannibalism challenged existing laws. Armin Meiwes was initially convicted of manslaughter in 2004 and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. However, the verdict was overturned on appeal, and in 2006, he was retried and convicted of murder, receiving a life sentence. The court ruled that Brandes' consent did not negate the act of murder. Meiwes remains imprisoned, a stark reminder of the bizarre and horrifying extremes of human behavior. The case of Tyree Smith is a more recent and deeply unsettling instance where mental illness appears to have played a significant role in an act of cannibalism. In December 2011, in Connecticut, Smith was accused of killing a homeless man, Angel Gonzalez, with an axe. The horror escalated when prosecutors alleged that Smith then consumed parts of Gonzalez's brain and one of his eyeballs. This was not a survival scenario, nor was it a premeditated online pact. Instead, the details that emerged suggested a profound breakdown in mental state. Smith was found not guilty by reason of insanity, a legal determination that acknowledges actions were a result of severe psychiatric illness, specifically schizophrenia. His case highlighted the complexities of dealing with individuals whose violent acts stem from a distorted reality. Tyree Smith was found not guilty by reason of insanity in 2013 and was committed to a state psychiatric hospital for up to 60 years. However, in 2024, after spending years in the psychiatric hospital, he was granted a conditional release into the community. This decision, made by the Psychiatric Security Review Board, sparked significant public concern and debate, despite assurances that he remains under strict supervision and is receiving ongoing medical and psychiatric treatment. His case continues to be a point of discussion regarding the balance between public safety and the treatment of individuals with severe mental health conditions. Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Butcher of Rostov, was one of the most prolific and horrifying serial killers in Soviet history. Active from 1978 to 1990, his reign of terror involved the brutal murders, mutilations, and cannibalism of at least 52 women and children across the Rostov region of Russia and the Ukrainian SSR. Unlike Dahmer's more confined acts, Chikatilo was a predator who roamed, often luring victims in public places like train stations. His acts of cannibalism were not about survival, nor were they about symbolic possession in the way Dahmer described. Instead, they were a deeply disturbing part of his ritualistic killings, driven by a profound sexual sadism and a desire for ultimate control. After murdering his victims, Chikatilo would often mutilate their bodies, removing and consuming organs such as eyes, tongues, and genitalia. The details that emerged during his capture and trial were sickening, revealing a man who meticulously planned his attacks and left a trail of unimaginable horror. The Soviet legal system's initial failures to apprehend him quickly allowed his gruesome spree to continue for over a decade. Andrei Chikatilo was finally arrested in November 1990 after years of extensive investigations and a massive manhunt. His trial was a sensation, revealing the full extent of his depravity to a shocked public. He was convicted of 52 murders and sentenced to death. On February 14, 1994, Andrei Chikatilo was executed by a single gunshot to the back of the head, bringing an end to the reign of one of history's most terrifying cannibalistic serial killers. The case of Issei Sagawa is perhaps one of the most bizarre and chilling instances of cannibalism, not for its scale, but for the perpetrator's unsettling frankness and the legal loopholes that allowed him to walk free. In 1981, Sagawa, a Japanese student studying at the Sorbonne in Paris, invited a Dutch classmate, René Hartevelt to his apartment for a poetry reading. What transpired there was a horrifying act of murder and cannibalism. Sagawa shot Hartevelt in the back of the head, then proceeded to dismember her body and consume various parts over several days, storing the remains in his refrigerator. He later attempted to dispose of the remaining body parts in a park, but was observed by a witness and apprehended by French police. What makes Sagawa's case particularly unsettling is his intellectualized and disturbingly candid descriptions of his actions, detailing his fascination with consuming human flesh. He claimed it was an attempt to absorb her vitality and beauty, driven by a perverse desire. French authorities initially charged Issei Sagawa with murder, but he was found legally insane and unfit to stand trial. He was committed to a psychiatric institution, but his father, a wealthy and influential businessman, arranged for his extradition back to Japan in 1984. In Japan, despite the gravity of his crimes, he was deemed to be no longer insane by Japanese doctors and released from the mental institution. Because the charges in France had been dismissed due to insanity, and he was never tried for murder in Japan, Issei Sagawa remarkably walked free. He went on to live as a free man in Japan, even publishing books about his crime and appearing in media, becoming a morbid celebrity. He reportedly passed away from pneumonia in March 2022. Imagine being trapped, not by walls, but by an impenetrable wall of snow miles thick, stretching as far as the eye can see. This was the grim reality for the Donner Party, a group of American pioneers who, in 1846, set out for California with dreams of a new life. Their journey took a tragic turn when they attempted a shortcut through what was known as Hastings Cutoff, an unproven and ultimately disastrous route. They were caught by early heavy snows in the Sierra Nevada mountains, effectively stranded. As weeks turned into months, their supplies dwindled, and starvation became a looming, terrifying specter. The initial optimism faded, replaced by desperate measures. They ate their oxen, then their dogs, then the hides of their dead animals. But the hunger persisted, a gnawing, agonizing emptiness. As members of the party succumbed to the cold and starvation, a harrowing decision was made to consume the flesh of the deceased to survive. This wasn't a choice born of malice, but of the raw, primal instinct to live. Body parts were reportedly butchered and cooked, a macabre attempt to sustain life in the face of inevitable death. Of the 87 members of the original Donner Party, only 46 survived the ordeal. The rescue efforts were agonizingly slow and arduous, with multiple attempts made to reach them. Our final horrifying tale takes us to Italy, specifically the small town of Correggio, where in the late 1930s and early 1940s, a seemingly ordinary woman named Leonarda Cianciulli became known as the soapmaker of Correggio or the Correggio soapmaker. Her story is a macabre blend of superstition, murder, and an utterly bizarre form of cannibalism. Cianciulli was a superstitious woman who believed her children were cursed. After a fortune teller told her that one of her children was destined to die, she became convinced that she needed to offer human sacrifices to appease evil spirits and protect her beloved son, Giuseppe, from being drafted into World War II. Her victims were 3 unsuspecting middle-aged women who visited her seeking help or companionship. She would drug them, then kill them with an axe. What followed was truly horrifying. Cianciulli would dismember their bodies, then dissolve the flesh in caustic soda to create a thick, dark liquid, effectively turning them into soap. She then used the blood, mixed with chocolate, milk, and flour to bake tea cakes, which she served to visitors and even her own family, claiming they were delicious sweets. Her motive was not hunger or malice towards the victims themselves, but a deluded act of maternal protection, believing these sacrifices would save her son. Leonarda Cianciulli's horrifying activities were discovered when the sister of her final victim became suspicious and reported her disappearance. Police eventually questioned Cianciulli, who, to their astonishment, confessed in graphic detail to all her crimes, even meticulously describing how she processed the bodies. She was tried in 1946. Despite being diagnosed with a historodal complex and severe mental issues, she was found guilty of all 3 murders and sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. She spent the remainder of her life in an asylum for the criminally insane, where she died of a cerebral hemorrhage in 1970. Her chilling acts remain a unique and disturbing example of ritualistic murder intertwined with a grotesque form of cannibalism driven by extreme superstition and a desperate, twisted love.